Hey, Fitzee here, back at it again with another one. On this one, we got a door bottom. We welded in 4 or 5 inches up from the bottom. And what usually happens when you do panels like that? Ends up caving in on you. There's nothing worse. Well, I sat down and took months of knowledge and years of knowledge and designed an apparatus to fix that problem. Now, I'm telling you, I'm going to share with you because this is very high tech. Don't go letting anybody know about it, okay? Because I'm going to patent it and I'm going to sell it for millions of dollars online. All right? Mm-hmm. You should know me better than that. It's just a simple piece of angle iron. Stick around. So it's time for us to get back on this door. In the last video, I made up this entire section. All this corner here was rotted out of it. I had to make up all the back corner here. I had to replace all the bottom lip of this here. I had to put a lip along here and put a corner on it. If you want to check that, it's the video before this one. I got this all done now. The next thing we got to do now is make the skin for the other side. As you can see, I got a section here that's all cleaned out. I got my corners all straightened away and it's all ready, and I can just go ahead and put a skin over the top of this and be done with it. This is where the mistakes are made. This is the point where everybody would say, well, that's all perfect now. I'm going to turn around and make my skin. I'll put that on there, and I won't go fooling around with the truck or anything like that. I'll put it on. That's where the mistake is made, okay? I prefer to do door bottoms like this on the truck if I possibly can. It's better to do it that way. You got alignment issues to line up. If I was to go ahead now and make up this panel here to fit on this here, and then weld it on, do all that, and then go over and fit it on the truck, you will run into problems, especially if you got a rocker panel. If you got a rocker lip that goes along here, you got to make sure you got the same gap along here. Okay, trying to make this here, you got issues with this gap being too wide, too narrow, this being out this way, this being in that way. Okay, especially when it comes to all the new panels. Everything, all this is all made up, everything's all straightened away. Okay, but on this one here, I'm lucky because I don't have a rocker to deal with because there's no bottom in these doors. The door's where it all ends. So I can just build it around the door. The problem I got is this seam right? Is this seam right? Is it right this way? Is it right this way? Okay, is it in and out here? Is it in and out here? What is it? You don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a test fit on this now and see what the door fits like. So I just got the pins temporarily laid in place on both sides here. What I'm after is to make sure that this lines up on the actual body of the truck itself. It's a good fit here. I have a good seam going down through here. Okay, decent good seam all the way down through here, good seam through here. Now let's look at the bottom. So here's the bottom, what we got to deal with. Now I know for a fact that this here section of this truck was too low. Okay, you can see how much lower that door is there. That's the original corner. Now the overlap comes down a little bit. I'm going to build the bottom of the door or bounce to it, and I'm going to adjust this here to fit the door. Okay, I don't want to go making the bottom of the door any longer. It's because the repairs have already been done to this and they're not the best. Okay, now over here is the issue that I've run into. Now over here you can look and see, like, wow, look at the gap. But I know for a fact from previous times, like if you look up here around the hinge here, there's a big gap here. This piece here is replaced on this here, and this is too wide here, okay? Now that's not the problem I run into. There's the problem I run into there. You can see now, by the way the bottom of that corner sticks out on this corner here, this is out too far. So this corner here is gonna have to be readjusted to actual fit in there. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tap this in here till I'm happy with it. I'm not gonna be concerned about this gap here. I'm gonna come straight down the door here with the door skin and make sure that it all lines up here and run across the bottom. As you can see, it's pretty close here at the bottom of this one here, and this has been made up. I'm going to adjust this to the door as well. Most times, like if that was all original, then you would have a smaller gap here anyway, because if you look up here, we got a good gap here on this section door, but just ahead of the top of the hinge here, you can see it's a big gap going right on down through there. So I'm going to adjust this corner. All I'm going to do is I'm going to tap that in here and just have this so this tapers down. So when I look here, you can see this shadow. This here looks consistent down through here. That way when I put the door skin on it, it's not going to be out. You can see right now, this here corner is farther out than this corner. So I'll get that tapped in there now. So I tapped in that corner. I'm in behind it there now. It's a lot better than it was, okay? I'll adjust it accordingly now because this here is pretty wide up here and this is narrow down here. So I'll turn around and I'll make the door square off of this here. But there's the height that I wanted that corner of that door. And I was concerned about this here being too high. It's fine, okay? I should get away with it. And then I just turn around and I worked it along here, just slowly roll the bottom of the door in to come over to this side over here, just so it's just a slight taper going across that way. Instead of just folding that corner and having a sharp corner, I just folded it in from here all the way over, a small bit. So now that I got that done, I can take it off and start making up the new door bottom. So what I need to do now is I need to find a piece of metal. You can see that's just a little more than 36. I'm going to give it some leeway because I got to have the flanges as well. 37 inches. I'm going to come up to, say, here somewhere. I don't want to go right up tight to the hinge. So I'm going to say about 3.5. I got to have an inch on it, so say 4 inches. So I'll need a piece about 4 inches because that'll have to come down like that. That'll be there. So let's go find a piece now to fit that. All my pieces in here are small. They're usually under 24 inches, so there's nothing in there. Now I'm getting low on this stuff here. If you've been to my channel before and watched the Krusty build, I had an abundance of this stuff here. And that's the last of it there now. I need something that's about 37 inches long. I need something that long. And that's too short. Even that panel there is too short. So none of them are any good. I gotta move into my backup metal in the back of the garage here. Dandy old cabinet. It's another project in itself. I want to make that a paint cabinet. I took that out of that old van I had. But anyway, that's not what we're here for. Here you go. There's a collection of steel that I got here, all different lengths. This is all shelving. Cabinets. This stuff's pretty thin. I've come across. Yeah, no, this is here. Measure that up. How long is that? No, that's too short too. I can have a longer one there. There you go. It's just an old shelf. I saves every little bit of metal I can find because it is not cheap, okay? As you can see here, like I even have, that's the remains of an old dryer. And there's an old washer body down there. I use what I can. These shelvings here, they're good. Some of this stuff is pretty thin. It's 24 gauge. Some of it, this stuff here, it's not the thickest. So it's good for doing patchwork on simple cars, but anytime I do any of the heavier restorations, like I got some of this shelving here, and that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's like 18 gauge, this stuff here. And I want to save that for big projects, but there's 3 or 4 pieces of that there. But I come out, I found a piece. Let's go in and make a door bottom out of that now. Here you have it, recycling metal. I've done this pretty well on everything. I haven't bought a piece of steel for this channel, okay? When it comes to sheet metal, I've been using recycled metal ever since I started this channel. It's always been stuff that I find around, sheeting. Wherever you live, I can guarantee you a sheet of steel costs more here. Most guaranteed, because we live on an island, everything has to be shipped in, our taxes are high, all that type of stuff. So I make do with what I can find around. So this here already has a nice lip on one end of it. I'm going to leave that lip there. I'm going to cut it off to the length that I needs it on either side. I'm going to cut one end of it off. I'm going to remove this lip here because I don't want this to interfere with me, because I don't want the way this rolled edge goes off here because I got to cut this section here off, okay? But I'm just going to leave this here, cut it up through here, take my length and cut it off, and then take my height and cut it off there. And that'll give me a rough idea of where I'm to with everything. So then I can have a piece that I can just lay in here. So I got everything here now. All I'm going to do is just cut off one end of it. Use the squareness of it. I'll trim that off. I'll come over 37 or so. Might go 38 yet. And just cut that off here. And then I'll come up 4 inches or so from here. I know I got this lip here now, which is the 4-inch section I needed. So I might just leave that there and then come up here, say 3.5 or so, and cut that off. I'll cut more than I need out of this anyway, so I got room to grow. So I'll go ahead now, get this all marked out, get the piece cut out of it. So I got the piece cut out. This is a piece now for the other door. I'll save that for later. I never cut off this lip yet, but I have the overall length. What size metal is this, you're going to ask? I got a gauge here. It's upside down for some reason. That's why I'm using it. But 18 gauge is there. All right. And 20 gauge is there. And it's tight going on 20 gauge, okay? So I'd say it's pretty well close to 20 gauge because there is a coating on this as well, right? But mostly all the stuff I've been using is 18 gauge. Now that there with the coating on it fits it nice, right? What's it on the door itself? There's 18 gauge there. There's a little bit more play in it. And 20 gauge, same thing. So it's pretty well the same metal as what's on the door. Same thickness, which is good. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to figure out how big of a lip I want here, and I'm going to cut this section off here. So I just got this right angle lip on it. So I'll get that marked out and trimmed up, and all I'll do is I'll measure it off the door itself, the lip on the door, to see how wide it is. I'll mark this across here, and I'll turn around and I'll trim that off. If you've been to my channel before, you've seen this piece of steel. I've had it a long time. I use it for jigs, rigging up stuff. I don't weld nothing to it. I use it for clamping and bending stuff. This was my original metal rake, what I used to bend stuff on. What I'm going to use it for now is a platform that I can actually set this up so I can cut it off right. So I'll just clamp it on either end of it. Now I lay down, I can mark that along there, cut that off. Great to have around. So I'm going to go ahead now. I think it's a little more than a ½ inch. So I'm going to measure up from there, measure off the ½ inch, and then cut that off. So I got that cut off. Now I'm left with this little lip here. Before I do anything, I was going to let it go and start on something else. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put probably that far apart. I'm going to turn around and put a couple of holes in them, because when I fold this over and I clamp it in place, I can weld up these holes and it'll actually weld to the skin on the inside. That's the way they originally were. There was a spot weld on them, but there weren't a lot of them. They were like every 4 or 5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead now and do the same thing. I'm just going to come away from the end here a bit because I got to trim this all off later, but I'm not going to worry about it right now, and I'm going to turn around and get this drilled out. I see a lot of guys drilling holes. If they want a 1/4 hole, they drill a 1/4 hole, okay? A thing that I've done all these years is I always found that 1/8 hole is always the easiest hole to drill, okay? It goes through almost anything. Once you start getting up into bigger bits, it has to work harder and takes longer to go through anything. I've done this here, and I'll always do this here. I'll always drill out all what I'm going to drill out with a 1/8 drill bit. I buy packages of them, okay? And they're disposable, and they're two-sided bits. The one-sided bits are garbage because they're too long. You want to have it so you can get it right down inside the drill. The 1/8 bit that usually comes on these here usually dulls out pretty quick. So I just use these here to actual step up. I don't use them to actual drill the first hole, okay? And that way I can just keep, all I do is just keep renewing my 1/8 bits, and then I just keep using these over and over again. Because the problem you got is sometimes when you start using these to constantly start your hole, it'll get on your nerves because you can't get it started. But I've always done this here, done it this way, and I always found it better. A lot of guys I see them drilling out holes, and they'll start with whatever size hole they're going with and drilling it out. And I just find it too hard, and I just think this is a lot easier to drill it with a 1/8. Now I'll run this down through it and open it up a bit, and then they're all done. Watch how much easier this is. No effort. Yeah, I got them all cleaned up. I got the holes all drilled out. I gotta come over here now and figure out where this is gonna go. Now I lay this in place. This is not square. If you're unfamiliar with how this panel was made, this is longer here. This got a curvature going to it. If I lay a straight edge on it here, you can see there's a gap here and a gap here. Now when you got a 90-degree panel like this, I can fool around with it and start shrinking and everything, but I still got to fold it over. Once I fold it over, this will be easier to roll. So I'm going to come over here now, lay it in place, give myself lots of access on either side, and I'm going to mark this here, and then trim off this corner on an angle, so it's on a 45, and then I can work this after, and I can actually flatten this lip out then. Using a black marker and a black panel. Yeah, brilliant, Tony. But you can see what I got done here. There's lots of material here to fold in over. And lots of material in here to fold in over. So what I'm going to do now is come over here, mark this down through here, cut this up on a 45 here, and cut this up on a 45 here. The reason for that is when I fold this over and I fold this over, I don't want these corners to overlap. So I'll go ahead now, get that trimmed off, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You can see what I got done here. Cut this on a 45 here. I will be cutting this piece off as well. I just want to leave that there so you can actually get a visual on what I'm doing here. Okay? And I'll do the same thing over here now, on this side here. And I'll cut that the same way, and I'll cut these pieces out of the way and move on to our next step. So I got both ends chopped off. Now, I got this marked already. What I got to find out now, is this a right corner or not on the door, okay? Now, the problem I got, this here has all been damaged in here. It's kind of hard to go off of that, but I can go off this section of the door up here. So if I can hold an edge straight on that there, come down and hold it across here, I can see if this is a right angle or not. Yes, and that's what it is. It looks good like that. Yeah, this here is a right angle. I pretty well knew if I wanted to show you, this is what I was going to check it with. And if it was off a bit, I'll adjust accordingly, okay? So I've always turn around and do the one corner first. Don't worry about the other side yet. Let's get this side straightened away. So now that I got this done, okay, I got to bend this on a 90-degree bend. I'm going to get to use my new Vevor brake. This is a real dandy thing for this stuff because I got a lip here to deal with, and I can actually bend it with the lip on it. So let's get this bent up. Before, all I would have done is I would have clamped this to this here bi-beam. Pull it out more. I would have clamped that there like that. Put a piece of angle iron. Cross this here. Clamped it on. Folded it up. That's how I would have done it. I've done a full video on this brake. It's great for small jobs, okay? a lot of patch panels that fellas are making for cars are usually small, you know, smaller than this even. Like, you know, usually you're talking pieces this big and you got bent corners. And one of these is ideal for that. I've been wanting a small box and pan brake, as what I calls it, for years. This is adjustable. I've done a full video on this here, if you want to check it out. It works out great. I just got it laid here on the bench. I like to find a home for it, but for now, I just clamps it on the bench here. We use it, and I pushes it to the back of the bench when I'm not using it. Now I got that bent up. Let's go over and start doing the next step. Now, what I like to do here is I have an old yardstick here that I use for this. I put that on the inside edge. I like to roll these edges over. Because the door panel curves, it's kind of hard to get the door panel to fit with this up on a 90 degree. When I rolls it over, it's easier to work with. And also, I prefer to do that now because it's a lot easier to do it on a flat surface, this I-beam, than it is to try to do it on the truck itself. So, I'm going to clamp this in place here now and hammer over this lip. I've always done it this way. Anytime I make panels, it's a lot easier. You get a better fit once you know how it will slide on. The purpose of this here is to give a gap there that'll slide over the door skin itself on the bottom. See how this is rolled over here now? If you look closely, you can see there's a gap there now. See the gap? That's the gap I want to be able to slide on. I'll tighten this up again now after the fact. But now when you flip this over, there's not a mark on that, look. A nice crisp bottom all the way along there. So, probably one of the best tools I got is this old I-beam. I'm going to go over for a test fit now. So as you can see, it slides right up over it. Little spots that I can actually plug weld it on. You can actually, it'll fit right nice up along that edge there, so you look across it, looks the part. Now I'm over here now, and I haven't done nothing with this yet. I gotta trim this off here. I gotta cut this on a 45 here. But the biggest thing I'm after here right now is I want to cut this panel here, cut this section here out of the way. I'm gonna mark this here. Cut this section out of it so this folds over and butts up against this here along this lip here. I'll cut the corner out of the top section and I'll cut the back out of here so then I can fold this over and then that will actually fall right in there nice and tight to that there. If you noticed, I haven't done nothing with this end yet. Leave it alone. If you try to bend over both ends, you're going to be either too long or too short. Leave that alone. Get the bottom and that side there straight away first. All I did is I cut straight on in through. Cut in through everything. I didn't worry about it. I'll take this piece here now and remove that. There you go. So now I got a nice butt weld in there. This will line up here and come down here. Now I got to adjust this here in a bit because this is not square. This section here has been stretched. It's at an angle out here. This corner is out more that side. But I'm going to bring it in. I'm just going to run a weld up along that there and then grind and make that nice and straight. Put lots of beef in there. So I can go ahead now and test fit the panel back under again. So as you can see here, I went ahead and I trimmed off this down, the width that I wanted, so same as this one here, and I cut the corner. Now you can see that when this bends over, it'll actually want to try to overlap this one here. I'm never concerned about my corners. I like to weld up these corners a little bit and then shape them because they're never perfectly square on a door. There's usually a very slight contour to them, right? So now I got that done, and I can turn around now and I can fold this over. I'll do it the same way. I think I got a shorter ruler there, but I'll just lay that there, clamp that on, and tap that over that. I don't need to put no holes in this one here because it's going to be welded here, it's going to be welded here, and that's fine for that. As you can see, this is what I was talking about right here. This little corner here is out too far. And when I run a straight edge down along here, come down through this here is nice, but it sticks up there. This edge here is pretty good. So I'm just going to weld that entire edge there and then grind it and dress it and flow it into this one here. You can see the way I got that done there. You can see the way the corner now overlaps on the corner with the fold over corner. I'll weld this right here in this corner and then I'll grind and dress this here. I'll leave that corner alone like so. And that'll be fine. Then I can spot weld these few across here. Now we can move over to this side here. Now what I can do is I'm going to mark this here and get rid of this section here. Same way I did the other side. I'll turn around, I'll mark it, I'll cut it off, get rid of this section here, and then I can actually set this up so I can bend this over. This one here is crucial because this panel is staying right here. That's where that's staying. And this one over here is going to line up square, a straight edge along that one there as well. So we'll fold that over onto that there. So I'll go ahead now and I'll get this one marked, get this cut, and get all this here removed, and the bottom side as well. And we'll work on bending this one over the same way. Now you watched me, I cut straight in. You can see I cut the inner panel. See the way that's cut there? I cut that up there as well. You can play around, try to cut through this here, and try to cut through this here without trying to cut into this. I've tried it in the past. This is the easiest way to do it. You got to weld it here and you got to weld it here, so you can actually going to be welding that back together. This is a lot cleaner doing it this way here. Now you can just cut the corner piece out of it. I got to clean up the other side now because there was a spot weld on it. Like that. And this here allowed to be cleaned up. I'll put some paint and everything on it later, but for now I just want to get the panel fitting in place. So now I can go ahead and flip this over, clean this up, get the panel, and figure out where I want to put my bend to. You can see there's the spot weld there where I cleaned it off. Now there's some issues up through here. Don't go worrying about it. I'm not going to put a whole door skin in it because the inner lip is bad. The entire outer skin is good. It's just this inner lip right here, all section's bad. I'll come back and I'll replace that later. All I'm worried about now is get my panel. I'll clean this off now and I can start fitting my panel on. I'm marking it here so I can bend it. So now I got the panel back on. I'm going to take a straight edge, come up along the door here, and line this up, and mark it with a scribe down through here. If you look closely, I got this set up here now. You can see the line. I'm back pretty well the thickness of the metal back from that there. The problem I got is that I got that mark there now. If I was to fold this up, I'm folding on this piece of metal, okay? And the problem being with it is that I'm going to make this shorter because I'm folding on this piece of metal. So I'm going to move it back this way here, so when I fold it up, I'm folding on that piece of metal, so I actually get a nice gap up along the side of it. I want to fold it up enough that I can actually hammer it back if I need to tighten up the gap. It's a lot easier to make it smaller to tighten up the gap than it is try to open it up again, okay? You can run a weld down across or whatever, but like if this had been turned around the other way and I had to bend it the other way, you would have bent it right on the line, okay? Because you're bending it on that piece of metal that's inside there. But this outside piece here, I don't want to bend this piece here. That's the line where I want my corner to be, so I want to bend it on the other side of it there. So I got this here back where it's supposed to be. Then I come over here and I'm sizing this up. It is close, but now when I flattens it out, it might change. Okay? Is it parallel? That's the next thing I gotta check. It's It's out on this corner here. This corner here has to go back. This here is not bad. But now, before I fold this over, I'll adjust all this here so I get this here to fit nice and flat and straight before I fold any of that over. So I'll go over now and I'll hammer and dolly this inwards, put a flat edge on it, tap it in, and adjust it, test fit until I'm happy with it. Don't go folding nothing over yet, leave it just like it is. Now there's a slight roll on the piece of metal, okay? This is what we're going to work on. You can see there's the bottom of the roll, and there's the top of the roll up there. I want to roll this around more on this end here, and then taper it back a small bit. Now, some might say, we'll just flatten it out again and bend it again. But you're going to weaken the metal there, and you're going to leave a line up through there. I just want to gradually maneuver this down here a small bit. This here is this way, too much, and I want to tap it back. So all I'm going to do is take the hammer now and use the I-beam, the edge of the I-beam here, and I'll use that to work that and tap that back there. You can see there's a rolled edge there. Okay, I'm going to flatten that roll edge out so that it's actually squared off more into this panel here. To help explain this a lot easier, okay, let's imagine this is that very tight bend that I just did. I just exploded this up a bit. I have it marked out here. You can see that mark there. You can see where I marked that there. So I can go back in here and I can line all this up so that it actually falls back in this place again there, okay? What I'm doing is I'm moving this corner over and taking it from the roll, making this one longer, okay? So I've been taking on the edge here, over-exaggerating it, and I hit it like that. Right on the edge. By doing so, when I line that up, you can see now, I lined that back up on the spot I got again, and you can see down here now this whole section is moved over, but the roll is still there. I'm moving the roll over. That's all I'm doing. It's very, very minute, but when you're talking about the thickness of the metal, it's very easy, okay? Because that's all I'm doing. I'm moving it over each time, the thickness of the metal, so I get the piece fitting nicer than what it was. Because there's always a guess to try to figure out where exactly your edge should be. And you want to find a way that you can actually tap it over. And that's all I'm doing, is tapping on the corner and bringing the side in further, making this side longer. So I got it all, a couple of tries. I got this corner tapped back. It's still tight there. I'm going to have to trim this back a bit more, cut a bit more off of this here. But you can look down through there, that's nice and straight. Now when I take a straight edge on it and line up my straight edge, I got a nice consistent line going down through the corner there, going up through. That's what I was after. So now that I got it where I'm happy with it, I'll trim this off, trim this up here, and fold it over. That's pretty close. I'm happy with that. So now that I'm happy with my corners, my edges, and the lip along the bottom, and up the side here, and the overlap, and the way it's all done, now I gotta flip the door over and start prepping the panel itself and get ready to do the cutting butt on the outside. So that's the first look at the panel, laid in place. Over here now, I got some issues up along here and everything. I think now the time is to try to work in getting this section straightened away. So before I turn around and I do the cutting butt along here, I'm going to turn around and go and pop this off and dolly this up. I'm going to run the scribe across here now, and I'm going to grind off the paint that's got to be grinded off there. So that's ready to go next time. And then I'm going to work on getting this all dollied up here. So I got that all dollied up. I just took the hinge off it and put a spoon in behind it, flattened it all out. It was just a little kink in it there and made this a little bit flat. There was nothing too elaborate there, just smoothed it out. You can get in between it because there's nothing between this and the panel. It's just there, the flat panel, so you can shove the flat bar straight in underneath to flatten all that out, because all that was rolled there, right? And I went ahead and I grinded all that off there. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to go ahead, get this all painted in here, get the bottom side of it all painted as well, and let that dry, so then we can start installing the outer panel. This is all I'm spraying on it. It's just an old rust paint, Rust-Oleum. Right, just painting it on there. It's not a weld-through primer or nothing like that. I've never used weld-through primer in years. I always found that it was always an issue with welding and stuff like that. It's probably changed. I haven't bothered with it, but I've always done it this way, and that's just what it's been. Yeah, it's just a simple paint process. The weld-through primers, I've had problems with in the past with adhesion and stuff like that. And on top of that, like, you can pick this up here. They're on sale. I think we're like $14, and I think a can of that stuff is like $60 or $70 now. And I've had troubles with clogging the can. I've used it in the past. I don't find a big difference. A lot of these cars that I'm doing are not winter driven. They're not winterized. You know, they're only they're show cars, or they're summer cars, whatnot, right? So, you know, unless you're building something that you're going to be plowing snow with and you're living in the salt belt and stuff like that, by all means. If it was me, then I'll be painting everything with lots of paint. The weld-through primer is just basically a first coat. It's not going to stop the rust, because there's always been an issue that once you weld it, where you weld it is bare metal, okay? And it actually burns up everything around it. And sometimes it doesn't burn it off, and it doesn't stick to the metal on the other side of it. That's one of the reasons why. Now, I'm probably totally wrong with this. It's just that I've been using this method for 20 years, and it's best kind. So I'm gonna let that dry, come out, and you start fitting that panel on. So now I got the panel put on. I got that there in place. Remember, this here had a black coating on it, so the inside of the panel is all painted in black, so that'll be fine. I left all that there for protection. I'm not going to weld none of this up yet. This is going to be the last thing I'm going to end up doing here. I'm going to get the outside welded up first, finished, and that way I can just come in here and finish this off. That way, if I've run into any troubles with it, I can cut it off and take the whole panel off again, right? It's always troubles welding the bottoms of doors and through the middle of a panel, right? You're going to have warpage and stuff like that, right? So this is what I got done. I just cleaned up the edge of it here. I got it all set up there now. It's cut to fit there, and it's cut to fit there. So I got both of them lined up. This is a nice edge here. Over here, like I said before, I got a little spot there that I'm going to have to weld up and then grind it and shape that there. What I'm going to do here now is just going to hold this in place, put a few tacks on it, and then start doing the cutting butt across here. Just a few simple tacks just to hold everything in place and keep this flush to the other panel, so when you look at it this way here, it's not sticking up. Now, our biggest concern with this here is this is going to want to tuck in here. So I got to be very careful with all this here. I can feel it here now, right off the bat. That's actually low along there. So I may have a bit of trouble with this. Over here feels pretty good, but for some reason over here, I can actually feel there's a high spot here on the door itself, and it's dropping off. But I'll make do with what I got, because the doors are far from perfect. Right? So anyway, I'll start over here now, start doing the cut butt. I'll cut so much, tack weld it on, cut so much, tack so much on. So I'm into it now. You can see here now how nice that is sitting there. But when I move over to here, you can see as I go across the door it gets worse and worse, see? So what I need to do now is I need to lift up on the door here before I weld anything else. Because I think that if I can pull up on it and weld it while it's up, hopefully it will stay and it won't draw away from me. So here's what I come up with. Okay, that's good there. But I'm going to move over here now. Right next to that weld is there. I'm going to clean this off here and I'll weld right to that there. And then I'm just going to come back here and lift up on this here and see what happens. I'll move it up a bit farther so it takes it farther up the door. And I'll use the door as a wedge to lift up on it, like that. Let's see how this works out. All I'm doing is I'm welding to the spot welds that I had there already. And I'm taking this here and I'll just lift it up on it. And I've after pulled it up now that it's after separate from here with the strain on it. I've after tack welding a few more of these over here. Now some of these here, that's still low there. It's hard to see. When I pull up on this, that section of the panel comes up. So I'll pull up and hold on that and tack weld that and work my way across. So I'll work my way across the door now, taking my time, trying to get it as flat as I possibly can get it as I'm going across. I don't expect it to be perfect. Like right now, that is perfect. And I expect that to all pull away from me. But you can see now as I move over here, it starts to drop on me. But I want to pull it up in place and get these two panels going in the right direction, like this here, pretty well, before I start welding, because I'm expecting it to pull away from me. That's working out pretty good. Pleased with that. You see what I'm doing here? Just welding it out, one spot weld, lift it up on it, using the panel itself to pull up on it. I'll move over to this one here now, and I'll weld to this one here the same way I welded to that one there. And I'll pull up on it. Like when I haul this out now, that seems to be staying up there and I got a big gap underneath it, see? Where I after lifting up on it. Hopefully that'll all stay like that for me now and I get it all welded up. If you look closely here, I got a bit of a gap here. It's a bit tight there. There's a gap there. There's a gap there. It's a bit tight there. But over here, this is really too tight here. What's happening there, two of them are hooking into each other. So I gotta take the blade down, cut through that and relief it. So it'll actually let go. I think it's all the way back to here. I can actually feel it here. So I have to cut through that one there, cut all that through there again. Actually let it relief so that it's not bonding, because when two metals are touching, when you weld them, they push together more and they gotta go somewhere and they ended up dropping on you. See, I cut the relief in it, cut the hole bigger. Then I pry it up on it so that I can get this here nice and flat. And then I put a few tacks in it, tacked every inch. I'm here now letting it cool off before I let it all go, because it's going to want to relief itself. It seems like that when I let it go, it falls back down again. So I'm going to let it cool off there before I move on to the next one. So I went over and I got all these done. As you can see, it's still dropped a small bit, not as bad as it was. But what I'm doing now is I have this welded on over here now and kept it from going. I'm going to take this section here now. You can see I start spot welded up, and I'm going to weld this up and I'm going to grind it all flat and finish it. Then I'm going to move on over here another 4 or 5 inches and do the same thing again, just so I can control the area that I'm welding. I'll keep it, instead of making it, 2 feet long, I'm just going to make it 6 inches long or 4 inches long. I think this is a bit much what I got going on here, but I'm close to the edge, so I'm fine. But when I get in here, I'll probably just go 4 inches. And I'll use this here, weld it on like that, to try to keep everything in line. And if I find it's starting to drop, I'll just pull up on it like so. Seems to be working out pretty good. The thing with this is trying to get the metal, when it welds, to stand up instead of fall away from it. Because once it stands up, it's okay that it'll actually stay up pretty good. When you grind it and everything, the heat, it'll want to pull away from you. It won't dip as much, right? It's probably going to have a tuck right through here, but this will be all filled anyway, so it's no odds about that. But I'm trying my damnedest to see how flat I can get this. One of the biggest issues with this is that it's hard to get behind the panel, trying to get in there to actually be able to work with it, because it's a closed panel. Okay, a lot of fellas just say, well, just plamish the whole panel and then bring it up. Yeah, but it's kind of hard to get in there, and it's almost a two-man job, because the hole in the door is up here to reach this down here, see? So it's not like I can do it myself, so I'm trying to find different ways of making this work. So here's what I've been at. I've been experimenting with this little technique that I found here now. We're always having troubles with the panels tucking right on the welds, okay? What I've been doing, you can see these marks I got here. This is the distances that I've been marking. I'm going to mark this one here, and then that'll be the distance from there to there. And what I've been doing is I've been welding it, grinding it, and finishing it off. And you can see here, this is the end here. Now this is close to an edge, so that's fine. But I went 4 inches, and in between the 4 inches, she tucked them, right in that area there. I left it there. I can weld that up and grind it up. And I said, no, I want to show you that. There's a section here that's tucked. But when I start bringing it down to like 2-inch set intervals, it went really, really nice. You can see there, I've been grinding, dressing it, and finishing it right off. But you come over here, you can see it's tucked there. Over here now is high, because it's on the outer edge, right? But this has been working really well for me. All I'm doing is, let that go, is I'm laying it across that there. You can see it's tucked there. And I'm welding it there on one of the welds that I got there. Could be on that one. I'll probably come over here now. I'll probably weld to this one here or this one here next. Probably that one there. I'll probably weld next to. And then what I do is I take a wedge of some sort, lift up on this, slide it underneath it, and pull it up so it sits nice and flush. Then I'll go ahead and I'll spot weld this section here. And what's strange is I'm cooling it off with the air, and it seems to be working good. I wanted to experiment with it. I figured if I cool it off with air, it'd tuck on me as well. But I got a strain on this here now, pulling up. So when I'm welding this here, this wants to keep pulling up because of the strain on it. This is what I'm thinking is going on here. It's always been an issue of trying to weld through the middle of a large panel like this here, right? I'm going this way here, like all I can feel is that section there. But all the rest of it, that feels really good there. there's what you're left with. Now it's starting to fall here now because this whole center of the panel here is still down. I gotta bring this up. When you lay this in place there now where I wants to weld it to, look. That's brutal there now. So I gotta get something I'll put in there to actually join two of them together so I can pull up on this to get this where I want it to go. I want to keep it smaller now here through the middle because it seems like when I'm going too wide, I'm afraid this is going to start happening again. So that's pretty good going down through there now. I'm going to go ahead now. You can see here, it's not bad. Right? It's pulled down here now because this here is all down over here. And as you come over here, it seems to be good. It's just that when you start moving towards the center, where I'm doing the work, it starts to fall away. So when I pulls up on this here, that'll bring all that up. So I'm going to go ahead now, and because this is just tedious for me, and I want to get this done, so I'm just going to go ahead and get some more of this done. I'll bring you back. I'm getting there. It tucked a small bit. It's still tucking on me. It's right in the middle of the panel there. You can still see that still is going to tuck on me. It's very hard to try to get out of it, but this process that I'm doing is making it a lot easier. Like coming across here, there's one spot right about here. It was really tight, it's after tucking on me, but I'm going to continue on now, get the rest of this up. I'm not going to worry about that. It looks a lot better than what it would have been. A lot of times you'll end up with a spot right in the middle here that's right low in the center, but this is a gradual. And I also got some problems with the center. The door is really flimsy, so I got to tighten it up down here. So I'm going to continue on to get this finished up. And that is the last of it. I welded across, and you can see where I had that high spot there. I just ran a bead of weld up across that now. Now I'll just shape all that there, so it's all uniform. Well, I got it done, and I got it welded in there. I'm pleased with it. Right here, it tucked on me this area. For some reason, when I got over here, this was really pulled down here. Now, this is where the repair and the damage was due before. I think it's this metal up here, because it was all welded up over here. And I think this here was all warped up, and it was all caved in on me. And I was trying to get it up. I can get in behind it if I can. I got to get something down behind it, jack it up, to dolly it up. But it's not that bad, right? Because when you hold it there like that, you can see that's exactly the extent of it. When you get over here, it's pretty good, right? But you can see it there. It's pretty good there. We can see how much is up there, huh? Right there, right along that section there. It's about this much of the area here. It's a typical what happens to them, but like over here in the center of the door, which I expected to be really bad, that's good over there. Over on that end over there, right? It's just right here, when it comes over and it gets about right here, from here on over, I start running into some troubles. Now I can take the hinge out here, and if I had a long enough flat bar, I can get through here, get in here. But the hole is up here for this door, so it's a bit tricky to get in there and get the piece out, so I might play around with it. So I'm not too concerned about it. It is what it is now, because this door, if you look out across it, is not the best, and it's got a few bangs in it and creases in it and whatnot, so it's going to be filled, okay? This is better than what was there, that's for sure. You should never get too overwhelmed with this stuff. This stuff happens. You're in dealing with a large panel, okay? I'll work this a bit. I got to still weld up this lip here, and I'm going to try to tweak it a bit so I can actually raise this up a bit, see if I can get it out there. But I think it's this piece of metal here that I'm running into problems with. Is this here got a crown on it? I should have probably dollied it a bit better and stretched it out a bit and try to flatten this area of the panel out, because it almost seems like there was a crown right here. And I end up splitting this through here again, and then opening up the gap again and trying to dolly it better, but I still never got it. I thought I was going to get it, but that's it. But that idea works fantastic for that type of stuff. And I was just going along, doing so much of it. Over here, start over here. I figured no more than 2 inches at a time. Like I was welding that on there, and then welding across, moving that over here. This here was too much. I ended up fixing that repair spot that was there. I ended up welding it up and grinding it. But when you got into distances like this here, you can see right here, this distance here, it started to work out really well. It was only a couple of inches, and then this whole section here is really, really nice, right? But that's an interesting idea, because what you're doing here is you're pulling up on the spot where you're welding. You're putting a strain on it, because what I do is I'd lift this up here, put a jam of the wedge underneath the bottom of that there to lift up on it, and they used to hold it in place. And I was even cooling it with the ear holes, which is strange for me, and I was wanting to see what would happen, and I found it wasn't shrinking to enough. Now maybe over here that could have been a problem. Got a lot to do with the construction of metal that you're dealing with, and over here I think the metal was in a different shape to it, and I wanted to pull regardless of what I did with it, right? But yeah, I'm gonna flip this over now and get all the inside all welded up. There you have it. What I done is I tightened this up with the dolly. All right, I went around hammering it all down, put the dolly on the end of it, and then turned around and went back then and I cleaned out all these little spots here where I'm going to spot weld with just a Dremel with the step bit, a small step bit, and just cleaned it off to get all the paint off it. A lot of people make the mistake when they're using a dolly, okay? They'd hold it flat against the panel like that there. But when you're hitting at that, that's bouncing, okay? And you're going to damage your panel in here. What I've been doing, what I always do is to see my fingers, they're my cushion. So I'll lay this flat against it, but it'll bring up my fingers back here. So the dolly's not exactly laid flat on the panel. And then I'd hammer across there. So only spot the dolly is where I want it to be. So anytime you put a door skin on or a panel on, just remember that. Use your fingers as a little guide to hold it back. I'm gonna go ahead now, get that all welded up. I'm gonna weld these corners here, weld this section up here where the two panels meet, and get all them spot welds done and get it all dressed up and finish up this door. There's all the transition there. Welded up the corner there and I rounded out the edge of it. I've done my few spot welds across the bottom. Done the same thing up here. I went through the transition, welded the corner, and grinded the corner off. And for you guys, 1 drain hole, 2 drain holes, and that's the factory drain hole. So she got drain holes in the bottom for her. So I'm going to flip this over now, just give that a quick clean up on the outside edges there where I welded it. And then I'm going to hang the door back on the truck. There you have it. Got it mounted on there. Now you can see how bad the gap is down there. Pretty big, but it comes up and it gets nice there, right? So I got to realign that down there. And it seems to be a nice height down there compared to the bottom. Back here is a little bit different. You can see the bottom is a little bit off. But it's also off this way as well. But I knew that. But I'm pleased with it. It's the door bottom installed, inside and out, skin. I do have a little bit of a wave in it. I can probably get at it from the inside. I've been looking at it here with the door on it. This is what I got to deal with. Get something down there to pry out on it. I can probably work that in later. It's a small bit low right across here. But hey, what do you expect? It's an old shelf. That's all that is, recycled metal. Never use no crazy tools to put it in. So, but anyway, that's the door bottom. Lots of interesting tips in amongst all that. I'm going to, next I'm going to be moving on to getting all this stuff here straightened away. So I get all that lined up. I can come back to that if I want to later on. But for now, I'm going to leave this one here. I hope the tips are good. Until next time.